with some reasonably nice weather in the last week, the garden has come rushing on, and in particular the magnolias have been rushing on. So to entice you to come and see us after the 12th of March, when two people from two different households are allowed to meet together and go for a walk in the garden for enjoyment rather than simply exercise, I thought today I'd just show you a few little clips of off the beaten path in the gardens and some really exciting things for you to see if you wander far enough. And of course you always have to look up to see magnolias properly. So we're looking here at a yellow Magnolia campbellii. It's only yellow in bud, and this was much talked about for many years before this plant actually came to be introduced into the UK. And we got grafting material from Mount Congreve in Ireland, where we first saw this plant in about 2005, 2006. And it's grown phenomenally quickly, and today it's a good 20-25 feet high, and it's flowering this year far better than it's ever flowered before, and there are, you know, perhaps 150-200 flowers on the tree as a whole. Although they're yellow to start with, they do open out to being a white campbellii, but it's quite far in advance in the year for a white campbellii to actually be showing. I wouldn't expect that, the old original plants from China, to be flowering for another 3 weeks or so, perhaps a month. So this is quite an exceptional new plant, and the Irish at Mount Congreve Gardens have given it a name, and they call it Valentine's torch. So just have a look up through and see with a bit of blue sky exactly how fantastic this looks today. And hidden away in a little glade today we see Magnolia Caerhays Belle seedling, which is only about 15 years old, absolutely flowering its heart out. And when we look behind it, we see huge towering Rhododendron Cornish reds just coming into flower, and the white that you see also in the distance is Rhododendron grande, which was introduced from China well over 100 years ago, and those 100-year-old plants that you're looking at. Not many visitors come this way, but they should, because it's a phenomenal show just round this corner. So nestling away between a rhododendron or two and very well sheltered from the wind, we've got a young Magnolia Lanarth. Now this was the last of the magnolia species discovered in China, and it was first grown at Lanarth down by St. Kevin, down on the Lizard, and the original plants are still growing down there today. And if you look at my garden diary on the website, you'll see pictures of them taken last week. But this little plant was a direct scion or grafted plant from Lanarth, and just look at the colours in those flowers. Some of them have been a little bit blown out early by the wind, but the most recent ones to come out are the most exquisite reddish purple. I don't think either of those two words really describe the colour we're looking at, which is simply fantastic. This is a small growing magnolia. It won't form a big tree, and in some years it doesn't flower very much. But this year it's absolutely covered, as you can see, and what a colour. Now a little clip of what you would see at the top of the garden, and we're looking at another Magnolia Lanarth. This one was New Zealand bred and is the same colour but a slightly different shaped flower. But let's not dwell too much on magnolias, let's move on to other things. And as we turn around and look at this clump of camellias, some of which are going over, some of which are just starting, and in the distance we see a towering, huge camellia donation towering above a rhododendron species called Rhododendron irroratum. And in the foreground you see a white form of irroratum, and in the background you see a pink form touching into the camellia donation. Just a little hint of what you can see when you get here, hopefully next week. It's always an exciting moment when the big leaf rhododendrons first come into flower, and certainly we're surprised to see this one out, which is a bit earlier than usual for Rhododendron grande. And I think these plants are seedlings. They're not quite as yellow in flower as some of them, but just look at the size of the truss and how many individual flowers compose each great big truss. No real scent, but what an extraordinary sight that is. You'd have to go to the Himalayas to see anything like it. Just to give the camellias a bit of a look in this little clip, we're looking at a form of Camellia Cornish snow. Now, Cornish snow was out actually in November or December, but there are actually two forms of Cornish snow, and the correct name for this one is Cornish snow Michael, after Charles Michael, the head gardener here until 1955. And Cornish snow Michael has a rather larger flower and a bigger leaf than the typical Cornish snow, and it flowers just that bit later. And in fact, at the moment, it's absolutely perfect in a little tucked away in full shelter in a little glade. Quite superb today. Well, thank you for listening to my weekly little tirade about things in the garden. We very much look forward to seeing you all here by the end of the week and in the next 2 months to come. Thank you.